how's it going? What is the day? I was like, oh, man. Day away. Good times.
Banged up, man.
I was going to say.
Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Awesemo.com NBA Strategy Show. Sunday morning edition here on the YouTubes, presented by Underdog Fantasy. I'm Dave Loughran. If you're listening in podcast form, Loughy_D on Twitter, LOUGHY_D. That's where I'm supposed to say podcast, but that's okay. It's the weekend. Joined by Eric Lindquist, filling in for Josh Engelman today, which means he'll be doing one baseball show instead of two baseball shows. You get a nice blend of Eric Lindquist on a Sunday afternoon. What's up, bro? Well, 7 a.m. over there. What's up, bro?
No, I get to do two MLB shows. I don't even have an MLB show today, which I'm okay with because I get to just build lineups the entire time, kind of lead up to it there. I'll be doing the NBA live before lock, so breaking that one down again, but good to get a jump start on it this morning.
Sweet. Well, we have 150 plus people watching already on a Sunday. So, I mean, there were the 150 waiting. I'm pretty happy about that. I'm happy to have all of you guys with us as always. Hit that thumbs up if you haven't done so yet. I mean, I'll put it to you this way. You got 160 people watching right now on a Sunday, right? Before the show even starts. You guys are the type of people that buoy the numbers here, right? So, I mean, 50 thumbs up from you guys should be not only doable, but it should be a near certainty. So appreciate it in advance. I'll blink and we're there. And hey, subscribe to the channel too if you haven't done so yet. And if you want to, hit that join down below. Get the free super chats each month, the custom emojis, and my favorite, the sweet badges. You see our boy El Negro Loco, David Porter, iced up with the 1-year badges. Oh, it looks good. I got one too. Never to be denied. Oh, and we'll always prioritize your questions and comments along with our Discord chat, along with our premium members in Discord. So you got 2 games today, man, and both game 7s, which is pretty exciting, right? The one that like Boston and Milwaukee is really interesting to me, but the Phoenix-Dallas one is almost more amusing because Luka Doncic has been absurd. Jason Kidd, I think, deserves a lot of credit for the adjustments he's made. But what about the fact that, like, recently they've just been rotating, they've just been trading blowouts depending on who's at home or not?
Yeah, it's one of those things where, what is it? And in NFL, it's like 2.5 points. In the NBA, it's like 4 points or 3 points. It's been like home court has been worth 40 points in the reverse section between games. It's 20-point blowouts in either direction. I don't think that's what we end up getting tonight. I think pretty much this is going to be these are going to be 2 competitive games. I see that the spreads are 5, 6.5 is kind of looking like the prevailing number for Mavericks Suns, but I would be surprised if we didn't actually see competitive games this time around. Every game of the Bucks Celtics series has been mostly competitive, but Mavericks Suns, I see this one being a little bit better than some of the previous iterations. It's been fun to watch some of these massive blowouts because Luka going nuts is enjoyable. Devin Booker at home just being a monster, but looking forward to it either way. Just think the Mavericks Suns, it's impossible for them not to have like one competitive game coming down the stretch.
Yeah, it's been fun watching both of these teams look way more dominant than the other. So, all right, you've done enough shows with me. I don't know how many NBA strategy shows you've done with me, but you understand how this works around here. We never can jump straight into the games. We always have to start with something odd, a question for the audience, a question for you. So Joseph Ramirez, what's up, brother? Just said, hope you sports are having a good Sunday morning. And why did he say that? I will tell you. Because yesterday, I'm assuming this is why. Otherwise, Joseph, highly insulting. Yes, last night, it was getting a little late, and I had this one ready. It was a thought that came to me while I was at CVS the other day. Don't ask why. That I'm going to start referring to people as sport and see how they respond, right? Like you go somewhere, maybe even like my father, hey, sport, how you doing? All right, you come up, you're at a grocery store and they help you with they appreciate your sport, something like that. My assumption is it won't go over particularly well. How would you respond to being called sport by someone that's younger than you, maybe, 20 years old or something? Like you hold the door from and they're like, hey, thanks, sport. And what is the one thing that you hate being called the most? Pal, buddy, what, boss? Which one do you hate the most?
All right, I'll start with the first part. Sport is absurd. I would imagine the person's like Benjamin
It's so
Button.
great though, isn't it?
Yeah, I'd imagine it was like Benjamin Button and they started in reverse. If they were younger than me and they're firing off a sport, I would assume they were born in 1935 and straight up Benjamin Button their way through
We're insulting
life.
you.
Yeah, hey, sport. I mean, not even I say that.
Sport.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. And now the second part of it, what do I hate being called the most? I'll tell you what Rinpack being hates called the most, because for 7 years, I've been calling him dude. He's my dude. I love my dude.
Oh, I call everybody dude.
I call him dude. It's like my endearing thing, but like, it's only like my really close friends that I'll call my dude, or, it's just kind of become a tagline at the beginning of shows because I really do like all my coworkers. But out of the middle of nowhere, like halfway through doing another year of the Slate Starter podcast, out of the middle of nowhere live, he goes, Eric, stop. I hate being called dude. It's like, it's the only thing I have called him for 7 years of our friendship was dude.
What's wrong with it?
He hates it. He absolutely despises the word dude. He's just like, it just, you can do better. I was like, I can do better than dude. Dude is like my dude.
Yeah. I don't use my dude, but I definitely use dude often, like frequently.
Yes.
Would he prefer pal? Hey, pal. Like, all right, pal. What are we doing with the Bucks? That seems even worse.
Yeah, it's way worse. I can't imagine that I could be friends with somebody for that long and just eat the bullet, like just continually let him call me the thing that I hate the most. Like what a sign of respect from Rinpack. I mean, he didn't want to make me feel bad for 5.5 years 6 years until he decides to tell me that.
That's outstanding, because then it makes you seem like an asshole, even though you're not the one that is the actual asshole. Yeah, no, I become the asshole and he becomes like the greatest friend ever. So it wins for him, both sides of it. Whatever. Do you know where bro? A lot of people hating bro in the chat. Bro, I've never really been a bro guy. Maybe just because I've always like been. Man, I'm bigger now, but I was always like a skinny, rail thin kind of guy. Just calling somebody else bro when you don't look like you're lifting on the daily. Not exactly a word I would ever use. I use it. Not gonna lie, bro. Yeah, but like, bro. Also, if I'm talking and I'm like, bro, you're crazy. Something like that with my close friends. Yeah, I use it. I might hate it, but I use it, and I don't think it's insulting even a little bit. No, I'm just saying that it's not one that I would use in my vernacular. I'm just saying a lot of people hating bro there in the chat. Sport is just a no. They're like through and through. But there can't be one situation where give me one situation where sport comes across it never works. Like you're like a creepy old guy grooming somebody. It's just like not great. It never works. There is nothing about it that works. Although I will say on Twitter, Eric Beimfor said that maybe if you have an accent, it works. Like if you have an English accent, I can't do one, but like, good day, in it sport. You're like, okay. But, but here's the thing. You could probably get away with. They always use in it. Well, instead of isn't it, they just use in it. But you can get away with a lot when you have an accent on anything. Like I think Australian people use the C word pretty regularly in a pretty profound way from what I understand. Like it's a term of endearment. Wait. I'm serious. That's not a joke. See you next Tuesday? Yeah, see you next Tuesday. Yeah, C word. I don't know. Put another strip on the bobby. See you next Tuesday is the yeah. See what people use for that one. That one. I'm willing to say a lot of things on this stream. That one I will not. I try and stay away from that one. Yeah. I wasn't sure if you meant that or cuck. No. That's not a term of endearment. It's probably not. It probably goes to the sport category where do not use. Right. You're so right, though. There is no appropriate time to use sport and not be insulting. And the worst part about those terms is that this is what I think makes them so fascinating. And then we're going to talk some basketball here, but it's Sunday morning. Sip some coffee. Someone just said they ripped a gravity bong getting out of bed. So welcome. However you want to do it. It's aggressive. You walked into a good one. what makes I've always been so interested by this, not like it's something I stew on, but when people get mad about it, or I don't like reflect upon this, but I thought about it yesterday. The reason it's so great is because it's insulting, but you never actually know. 90%, 99% of the time, you don't actually know if the person's trying to insult you or they just think it's okay. Right? Like they could be trying to insult you or they really aren't, but you're still insulted. And that's the best part.
Yeah. I can't imagine that in the year of our Lord 2022, that you're going to say sport to somebody in any kind of a fun contextual. Like,
no, but what about Pal and Chief? And what about some of those? Don't you think some of those go a little bit too far?
Yeah. So buddy, I think that there's like depending on how you use it, like bud, I feel like, it's kind of like the short abbreviation. If you say bud. Buddy to somebody, I think that could actually come across with some negative connotation. Hey, buddy, like that seems a little strange too.
Yeah, I'm not big on buddy.
Yeah.
At all.
No.
If they're a kid, if there's kids, like if my neighbor's kids are outside playing, I'm like, what's up, buddy? That's different. They're like 10-year-olds throwing a football around. That's different. But if I came up to you and I was like, buddy, hey, I wouldn't do that to you.
Yeah.
That's not right. Yeah. Anyway, I had to get your take on that.
And I love the question. Don't use sport. I think that's what we've learned here. Don't use sport.
I can't wait till Jordan pops up tomorrow in Zoom, and I'm gonna say, "Hey, morning sport, morning sport." Hey,
he'll take it. He'll take it.
Oh,
like a good, like a good little boy. Yeah, he just totally will eat it.
All right. And by the way, we're almost at 100 likes, so that's what I'm talking about, man. This Sunday crew is for Eric. The Sunday NBA strategy show crew is for real.
Yeah, the bedrock of Awesemo.com. Y'all are the real ones.
Yep. You are the cornerstone.
There it is.
The foundation, the bedrock.
Yes.
All of that.
All of it.
So get us to 100. Thanks. All right, Milwaukee, Boston. Let's do this. The Milwaukee Bucks coming into Boston. And this series has been fun too, because the Bucks, have the Bucks been dogs in every game?
I think so, because they've been like 1-point dogs at home. Routinely.
Yeah, it feels like
1.5
right?
point. Yeah.
I think they may have been a 1-point favorite in one. I can't remember in one home game, but on the road, they're 5 to 6.5 point dogs. This one's at 5 now. What was it at? Yeah. Okay. So they're 5-point dogs. A couple games, they were 6, I think. So yeah, 206 total, very low total here. Chris Middleton remains out. Yeah. And let me set it up for you this way, just to make our lives a little bit easier. This is the first slate this is the first time throughout this entire series, or throughout, all of the conference semifinal games, that we've had Giannis and Luka on the same slate. So I'm almost positive, right? Because it was always Dallas, Phoenix, Philly, and Miami, and then Golden State, Memphis, or the other way around. But I'm almost positive we haven't seen this before. So how do we work this? Like, which one of these guys do we prefer more than the other? Both of them in game 7s tonight.
Yeah, we had been seeing Memphis, and so you get the Memphis value, and being able to play Giannis was like a virtual certainty. That was kind of the first thing that really stood out to me today is, where do you start with Giannis? How much value do you have? Where is the value? Which teams? Does any of it exist? And it really doesn't. The guys who project out the best point per dollar are Giannis, Chris Paul, Devin Booker, Drew Holiday, all according to our projections. And I think that that's fair, but it's going to be very difficult to play a 65% allotment of Giannis. If the field does that, I think that's probably the wrong way to go about it. Now, he puts up 80 fantasy points, you're going to need him. How about that? How about that for some analysis? But for the most part, there's no way that if you don't get Robert Williams there at 4,800, if he decides to end up sitting here tonight, and if you don't have some kind of crazy amount of confidence in Mikal Bridges, now down to 5,500 on DK, it's just so hard to find paths to get to Giannis, because the value also exists at like the small forward, power forward position in terms of guys that are cheaper in that 5K range that you actually feel comfortable rostering. So yeah, Giannis has been incredible. He's probably going to be incredible today. That's just kind of what he is. But I think 12K on DraftKings without Memphis value is a very, very different conversation than any other slate we've had with him so far.
Yeah, absolutely. And, as far as Drew goes, Last game was underwhelming. I had been hitting the over points, rebounds, and assist props on him pretty frequently, and he's been pulling through for us. Did not come through last game, but he still played 42 minutes. He just the rebounds weren't there. It happens. The assists weren't there. It happens. But you're getting 42 minutes from this guy. He's attempting a ton of threes. That was the first game in the series that he attempted less than 20 field goals. Everything about Drew right now, just from a volume standpoint, it's if you look at usage, if you look at assist rate or potential assists, however you want to do it, you could even look at rebound rate, not so much, but he's still rebounding above average for a guard in this series, hands down. But if you look at just usage and you look at minutes or usage and assists, it's Giannis and then Drew and then nobody else on this team. That's it.
Yeah. I mean, is that surprising?
No. But I think it makes Holiday a high upside guy when his shot actually starts to fall.
Yeah, he's a guy that on the last slate was pretty unavoidable for me. The other thing we have to talk about when you discuss Drew Holiday is just the stocks upside. I mean, it was still a fantasy allotment that's buoyed by 5 stocks in the last game out. He had 3 in the previous game, 2 of which just being absurd at the end of that game. You had 3 steals in game, what was that, game 5? 4 stocks in game 3. I mean, it's just a ridiculous amount of productivity on the defensive end you get from Drew Holiday. It was a lot more fun when he was 7,900 last slate because, even at 36.5 fantasy points there on DraftKings, he didn't completely bury you. But now back up to 8,200 on a tighter slate with less value. He's really kind of a difficult piece to really prioritize over the likes of a Giannis simply because of the raw points and Luka Doncic being at the point guard position from a raw points perspective. I mean, it's such a different slate than we've had here before. So you got to be really, really sensitive to it. I totally am with you where if you see him knock down shots, if you see him go back to attempting 20 shots a game in that kind of regard and, 3 for 10 from 3 last game out, these are fine numbers, but you still need to have him pay off 8,200. And you have Marcus Smart further down the board that I think is going to be a necessary play just to save some money to get up to the likes of like a Luka and the likes of Giannis. So Drew Holiday, as much as I loved him on the last slate, I'm pretty much going to be holding hands with the field more than likely in this spot.
Okay. Yeah. And for what it's worth, holding the hands with the field is still like 35%, right?
True.
Like it's still, I see what you're saying though. You're not going to be
can't prioritize. Yes. Yeah. I had like 70 something percent of him last slate.
Yeah, for sure. I wanted to clarify because in case people are like, oh, he doesn't like him at all. You're saying you liked them a lot more last slate.
Exactly. Yeah. We had a 7,900 Drew Holiday where every single thing that you said was true, but we also had Tyus Jones and Steven Adams, which on DraftKings have just been auto plays. And so rip to those days. Those were good days.
Those were good days. Those were great days.
Mm-hmm.
But now you're getting somebody like Bobby Portis. This is a good segue into this. Who's played 28 and 29 minutes over his last 2 games and is just a monster on the boards. If you leave him out there, he's the highest projected owned player on this slate at 5K. And I'm not saying that his price is bad. What I'm saying is it speaks to what you were talking about with the overall lack of quality value here. And really, if you're looking at value on this slate, unfortunately, it's a lot of Bucks guys, and I'm not saying it's good value. I'm saying it's the only relevant value or semi-viable is guys like, Pat Connaughton, Bobby Portis, and Grayson Allen.
Yeah, it's brutal. This is kind of unfair to think about how much of a difference it is for the Bucks with and without Middleton. Like just in the larger context of this series, it sucks we didn't get a full-blown iteration of this Bucks teams because you're seeing Wesley Matthews play as many minutes as he can possibly be on the floor to guard Jason Tatum. Like that's a brutal type situation for the Bucks as opposed to having Chris Middleton on the floor constantly for that. Pat Connaughton played 33 minutes last game. You get 29 from Bobby Portis in relief duty. And I'm with you where I think, it's pretty surprising to see 5K Bobby Portis jump up to the top of the board, but it does make sense. You're just in such dire straits to find any type of value. Grayson Allen is going to project out terribly, but we've seen multiple times back to the Bulls series where if he can just flip the switch and knock down some shots, I mean, he was 0 for 4 from 3 again here. coming off of a Chicago series where obviously easier looks are going to be found as opposed to the Celtics defense around the perimeter there. But Grayson Allen's one good shooting day away from being viable at 3,700. It's just hard to know if at 39% you really want to be taking that dive. I know I don't. I'm more inclined to play some Bobby Portis in my life, but yeah, it's a pretty forced situation where you just have to be playing some of these bucks and figuring out paths to get up to the likes of Giannis and Luka.
I really like George Hill because in 4 games this series, he has 9 personal fouls and 5 hold on. He has 9 personal fouls and 5 points.
Yep. You tried
ratio.
to get through it. You tried to get through it.
Yeah. Well, you laughed. I would have got through it.
It was hilarious. I mean, 18 and a half minutes from George Hill.
No, look at the other games too. Look at all.
It's so bad.
It's terrible. And then the one game you're like,
why aren't they playing Javon Carter more?
I don't know. Javon Carter didn't play last game.
He played 1 minute.
Well, but it was blowout.
Yeah.
Like he wasn't in the rotation. Yeah. George Hill. Ooh, sorry, I called you dude. But the funny thing.
Good job, sport.
Yeah. No worries, sport. The funny thing is, I'm not even calling you dude. It's just so ingrained into my vernacular that's, say, dude, that was a crazy game. It's not even me saying it to you. It's just me saying it. Right.
Right.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
If you're saying my dude like you do, you're specifically referring to the person you're talking about.
Yeah, and I think that's a lovely way to do it. My dude.
Ryan,
my dude.
Ryan doesn't.
Ryan, sure as shit, does not. That is what we learned. We learned that.
Ryan, come on, man. Settle down, my dude.
No.
Anything else? I'm joking. We love Ryan. And thanks for covering me on the Friday night show, brother. What about brother? What about brother?
Brother's fine. Brother's fine.
I think that's like one of the most endearing things you could say, Yeah. Now, hey, brother. That's brother can be.
If you say it like we're gonna WWE SmackDown, less so.
Okay, tell me that if I was like, hey, what's up, brother? Like that's fine. Tell me though, anytime you read somebody saying brother on Twitter or something that you don't read it like that.
I do kind of. I'm kind of realizing that maybe I do.
Right? If someone uses brother on like social media, you never just read it as brother. You always read it as like, hey, thanks, brother. And then it just sounds weird.
It's just weird. Just weird. Yeah, kickstart. That's what we've been talking about. The realest moment ever on the Slate Starter when Rimpak told Eric he hated being called my dude.
Wait, was it my dude or my guy?
No, my guy. No, it was my dude. I called him my dude.
My guy.
Yeah, that's creepy. I never said my guy. My dude is what it has always been. And oh boy, shot down.
Yeah, there's a one bite. Dave Portnoy does the pizza reviews.
Yeah,
he did one in Philly, and it got. He gave it a phenomenal review. And this unbelievably annoying character came up, and he's like, "My guy, yeah, my guy." And I've never liked it, but ever since that, I've hated it even more. And one time I was drunk and I caught myself saying it, and we were on a boat, and I wanted to jump off the boat.
It's a come to Jesus moment in your life.
To my leg.
What? Yeah, it's a come to Jesus moment in your life.
Yeah,
I've gone too far. I've gone too irresponsible.
Yeah, Eric, I sobered up very quickly. Anybody else from Milwaukee?
Yeah. Nice segue. I don't know. Let's see. Rest of the Milwaukee guys. I think it really depends on site. I mean, Drew Holiday's 9K on FanDuel. Best of luck to everybody getting up there, even though, as I said, stocks, you get 5 of those, has a lot of utility for FanDuel purposes, but you're definitely having to pay for it. I think, and we just got done besmirching the good name of George Hill, but
that guy's playing with an anchor attached to his leg as well.
I think I have to have shares of him at 3K. So there aren't many guys. I'm going to make sure I zero out my salary in that kind of a regard, but there are not many paths to get up to the raw points of Luka and Giannis in the same lineup. I think Wesley Matthews is going to end up being a little bit more popular. We've got him currently at 24%, and there aren't many guys down here underneath 3,500 that are remotely viable. And we've seen him play 37 minutes in game 5, which was successful there. Got blown out there, maybe missed a couple of minutes towards the end, but was going to play right around 30 minutes there again, Wes Matthews. But for 1/4 of the ownership, if I can play a 3K George Hill and he can get me 10, like legitimately 10. I think there's paths to that working out on this kind of a slate just because of the raw points upside of those two guys specifically in Giannis and Luka. So if you're trying to just land on somebody on the bottom end in order to be able to jam them, George Hill is going to see the floor. George Hill, anybody at the guard position can run into some stocks and just simply have a steal or two just show up in the box score. And, if he knocks down one shot, 1-3 in some kind of a regard, 18 minutes of George Hill actually has some utility, which I didn't really expect to be saying coming into today.
It does. He's going to need to fall into those points, but
yeah,
it's doable. You're not going to feel good about it, but
oh no, it's literally just, if you're building a large allotment of lineups, like 1 out of 20, if you're doing like a 20 max, I think has some utility. But if you're building 150, I think you're going to get to shares of just about everybody who's going to play more than 12 minutes that you're projecting out in that kind of regard. And I think George Hill at 7%, I would be comfortable playing around 10% of him simply because of the ability to get up to every single stud that I want.
Yo, Underdog, guess what? $10 million fantasy best ball contest tournament. Sorry, it's now there. Grand prize of 1 million go in the first place. I thought, why do I feel like that's wrong? I thought it was more than 1 mil to first place. Is it 1 million?
I think it's 2 million to first.
It's two, right?
It's 1. And then what I think is the coolest part of the contest, $1 million to the season long winner.
That is great.
If you have the team and you have the nuts, you don't get clobbered by a 1 week sample size deal in the playoffs, which, take it for what it is. I mean, you're going to have one team win that million. It's not like there's going to be some ridiculous payout structure for the rest of the group. But I got to tell you, knowing that if I build the best team and I have the best results, I'm not going to walk away with zero. In fact, I'm going to walk away with $1 million. That is incredible. So well done by them.
It's a great approach to this. There's no question. Yeah. And especially late in the season can happen too. There's just a lot of weird stuff once you get into those later weeks. So I love that idea. It's going to be awesome. I truly love their best ball product. I really do. We did so much of it on our fantasy football channel last year. Subscribe to that too. And our best ball channel. If you haven't done so, we do the mock draft Mondays every Monday afternoon and a lot of great stuff if you're trying to get into that. But yeah, 2 million the first, like Eric said, 1 million the second, and then 1 million to the regular season winner, which is awesome. Only $25 to enter. But also this isn't in the read, but they also have awesome basketball contests too. Like they've had some great basketball contests, and we've had a lot of people tweeting us, tweeting our Awesemo Hall of Fame account with big wins. One guy's won like 1,500 plus 4 times in the last month since we started doing these promos. So yeah, get over there, check out their player prop contest, familiarize yourself with the site. But whatever you do, use the promo code Awesemo, AWESEMO, because when you sign up, they will match your deposit bonus up to $100. And then you can use that to enter whatever contest you want. So link in the description, or Mike can throw that into chat as well and get you on your way. Use the promo code Awesemo. Huge contest, biggest football best ball contest ever. And also some other great stuff leading up to the NFL season and through the basketball season. UnderdogFantasy.com or download the app. All right. Talk to me about Boston. Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Al Horford. I want to start with the 3 highest priced guys. Where do we go with these guys on a 2-gamer?
You're starting with Jaylen Brown again. Jason Tatum played phenomenal last game. You needed him. And for most of this series, I've been playing a ton of Jason Tatum. And then last game, of course, I jump off the wagon. I only had like 12% or something Jason Tatum. Complete must-have in that scenario. And I got to imagine in the Garden, he's still going to be a guy there in Boston that is going to take a ton of shots, have the usage. He's the stud, no doubt about it. But I have to compare him to Luka and Giannis on this slate, which we haven't had for Jason Tatum. It's always been, well, can I play him alongside Giannis and jam Memphis value? Yes, you've had that opportunity. But I think Jaylen Brown at 8,300 is going to be the guy who fits into lineups so much easier on this kind of a slate. Now, Tatum, if he beats one of Luka or Giannis straight up, I'm probably going to be in a lot of trouble. But I think that we're just going to see a lot more ownership going his direction as opposed to, Jaylen Brown at 30% as opposed to Tatum at 21%. I'm still going to prefer the Jaylen Brown side. He's got every opportunity. He's going to play just as many minutes again. 41 we saw. He'll play upwards of 43 alongside Jason Tatum, barring foul trouble. So it really, that $1,700, I can't emphasize enough how important it is to save it on this kind of a slate. So by default, I'll take the guy who's still a 1.16 fantasy point per minute player throughout the entire season up against Tatum at 1.3, knowing they're both going to play 40 plus minutes.
I hear you. Yeah, this Adam and I talked about that at length the other day. Was it Friday? Yeah, Friday morning. Just Jason Tatum, obviously a better fantasy point per minute guy than Brown, but you're getting a huge discount there. And we've seen Brown with pretty high usage, and he's also, he's rebounded well in this series for the most part. He's done a lot of good stuff, and he's scoring. So I hear you. Now, Al Horford, he's somebody to me that you look at it from a couple different angles. He's had a few really solid games in this series. Like, if you consider where his salary was in these games in the first few, he was great, especially that 22 and 16 game where he dropped 57 fantasy points. The last two games, very much underwhelming from a scoring standpoint, but I still can't get past the fact that he's played a ton of minutes, and he lost a little over a minute last game to just coming off in that blowout. Would have played about 40 again. You're pretty much getting 40 minutes in competitive spots. Mind you, this is a game 7 as well. Where do we go with Al Horford at a center position that has continuously not been all that great in this postseason? Or is he at a price point above 7K, or you can talk about FanDuel as well, that keeps him from being a top option?
I don't really have a strong stance on what you're supposed to do with Al Horford today, because there's really two sides of the coin with him. We've seen the last two games, the usage has just been crippled by the fact that Tatum went out and was just annihilating. We see 38 minutes, 8.4% usage, 9.5% usage in game 5 in those 38 and 41 minutes. You kind of need the shots. Like, you need the volume at 1,700 for Al Horford. And I don't know if we necessarily get it, but if you see some of those ceiling games he had, I mean, he got 41 in game 2 on the backs of just 9 shot attempts, but otherwise 17 shot attempts, 14. It seems like Milwaukee's made some adjustments just to limit some of those wide open threes that he was knocking down. He still got 4 good looks at it last time out, 0 for 4 from 3. So that's going to be the tough thing, is knowing that he's not the priority. I wouldn't even call him, with Derek White on the floor, like probably the 3rd or 4th option for Al Horford when he's on the floor. I find it hard to believe that Marcus Smart in a game 7 isn't going to feel like one of the best players on the floor as well. So Al Horford, I don't know what those shot attempts look like, but if you can get him to knock a couple of those down, if he can get up to those 15, 17 shot attempts, he's going to be fine. But I see more likely that I'm going to end up shorting him a little bit at the 7,200 number. Over on FanDuel, it's another thing where he's 7,600 and you don't get the bonus for threes. And I just find it hard to believe that he's anybody I want to take some profound stance, because I just don't know what those shot attempts are going to look like. It's really hard to know what Milwaukee wants to key in on this time around, because, hey, if Al Horford's not shooting, but they're winning by 13, I don't think Boston really cares. So I'll have a little bit, but probably not to the field.
I agree with you. And so I was really loving some of the props we were getting on Horford early in this series, because there was a trend that they were actually making an effort to get. Udoka was clearly trying to get Al Horford the ball and involved. And I was talking about this after the 3rd game, I think it was, that he was averaging essentially the same amount of touches per game as Jason Tatum, which is crazy, right? Yeah. They were 80 for Horford and 84 for Tatum through the first 4 games. The last couple games, and I know the stat's not all encompassing, but it does show you, like, is he getting as involved as he was? He's down to 61, and Marcus Smart's up to 86. You've seen a lot more Marcus Smart, and obviously Tatum just doing, everything in these spots. But whether it's Milwaukee making good adjustments, or it's, Boston making adjustments themselves and getting him less involved, it's not just that Horford's fantasy production isn't as good because of poor efficiency. No, he just is not nearly as involved. And that to me is concerning, because his price is going up and not down.
Yeah. Sharp.
Anybody else you want to hit on for Boston? Grant Williams. And do you think Robert Williams plays?
I don't have any lean on Robert Williams whatsoever. I mean, we've seen him play when I didn't think he was going to play and sit when I didn't think he was going to sit. I thought he was going to play last game. It's like a true 50-50 for me. Considering it's the first game, you shouldn't have any worries as long as it's not 5 minutes up until, or like the Matisse Thybulle thing where we didn't find out that he was available until after lock. Good job, Sixers. See you guys later. Have a good off season for your team. But I'm looking at Derek White as a guy that I just have to fade. I'm not playing Derek White at 5K on FanDuel at 16%. I refuse. I think there's just much better spots to go. I think Grant Williams, it's so interesting what's going on with him. He ends up getting in foul trouble right out of the gate here, but he's got such a big frame. He's really the only guy who can handle what Giannis is going to be trying to do to Boston every single time out. And we saw the 2 quick fouls where he had to then we saw a little bit more Derek White. I don't think Derek White plays as much if you have Grant Williams just kind of keeping his hands to himself in the early going of it. Yeah, guarding Giannis, you're going to run into some issues in terms of foul trouble from time to time, but I think Grant Williams sees more than 30 minutes, all other things being equal, no foul trouble this time around. And that just makes Derek White really, really unappealing coming off the bench there. 30 minutes feels like a little bit of an outlier for me at this point, just in terms of what I expect between him and Grant Williams. So I'm not going to be playing a lot of Grant Williams. He's not a great fantasy producer by any means. He's garnering 23% because he's an actual cheap 4,200 guy that I said is just going to play some minutes. But Derek White is going to be kind of my big strong against, even at 4,600. He's garnering 21% ownership over on DK, and I find it impossible to want to play him. The one guy I want to play in bulk is Marcus Smart, and it looks like the field does too. He's 6,300. He's going to play every single minute he possibly can handle in a Game 7 scenario. He always feels like when you're watching him, like he thinks he's the best player on the floor. And defensively, he's great. But, even amongst Tatum and Brown, he's still going to get his shots. So Marcus Smart, 6,300. I think the best piece of value, quote unquote value, that we have on this slate.
We saw it in Game 5. He had that baseline attempt to tie the game, and Drew Holiday, maybe go ahead or tie. They would have gone ahead by a point.
Would have gone up by 1. Yeah. Because you had Bobby Portis put them up by 1 on the other end.
Yeah. That somehow Boston couldn't get that defensive rebound when they had like 3 or 4 jerseys swarming Bobby Portis, and it's crazy.
Yeah.
But Holiday on those final 2 possessions was remarkable, and throwing incredible. The ball off of Smart to retain possession, like just doesn't.
Is he the best two-way guard in the NBA? Drew Holiday.
Yeah. I mean, it's not this series. It certainly hasn't been Chris Paul. Earlier in the season, you could have made an argument for it, but yeah.
Hopefully it's not Chris Paul again today. That'd be very nice for me.
Let's talk about it, man. Dallas and Phoenix. We don't have any free tools today because it's Sunday, but you guys always, if you want to check out our Awesemo Plus packages, whether it's, for basketball or baseball or any sport. I mean, I could run through them, but it's a Sunday morning and I won't waste your time. If they have contests out there, we have content for it. We have tools for everything, projections for everything, ownership, top stack, boom bust tool, top pitchers, which is a great tool. All of this, just all the simulation tools, like the top golfer tools, the top driver tools for NASCAR, the top fighter tool for UFC, esports content, you name it, over at awesemo.com/join. If you want to get in, you can do a week, a month, a year. You can do one sport, every sport, doesn't matter. And then all of our tools too, built by Awesemo himself, and just so many guys that work on them constantly, like Sean Zahn, who's won $100,000 4 times in the past month or something crazy. Steve Buzzard, who is one of the best players out there, obviously Alex Baker himself. So that these are good tools, that they work. So awesemo.com/join, and join our Discord as well. Hop in our Discord, great community, and the Office Hours channel where you got those pros answering your questions and helping you better your game. Okay. Dallas at Phoenix.
I wanted to add one more thing.
Please,
it's very important.
Do.
Robert Williams. If he plays, play a ton of him, because there aren't many opportunities on 2-game slates to get massive positive leverage. He's sub 5K. It's a closeout elimination game. And I think he'll play as many minutes as, his body will allow him to. It's going to be a very uncomfortable roster to a certain extent. But if you look at our boom bust tool, positive leverage, 22% positive leverage. He's coming in around 18%. I'm willing to embrace all the risk and all the land for a guy with a 40% optimal percentage. I think the range of outcomes is wide, but he's so cheap relative to what that price has been all season long. I'm assuming he doesn't play a full allotment of minutes, but Robert Williams, unavoidable piece, a guy that I'm going to have an absolute ton of if he plays.
Yeah, perfectly fine getting 22 to 24, hopefully 24 minutes from a guy that's a +1 fantasy point per minute player.
Yep.
We talked about Luka, but is there anything else you want to hit on here before we get to the rest of these pieces of Dallas that never make life easy for us?
Luka's a monster. I mean, you got to get Luka in your life. There's no way at 26% on DK, when you're comparing him because of the value that can exist at the point guard position. You talked about Drew Holiday, quote unquote value at 8,200. Marcus Smart for sure for me, mid 6K piece that's just unavoidable on this slate. It's more of a positional reason that you're going to be seeing people get to Giannis a little bit more at 38% as opposed to Luka. But if that's going to be the case, I want to get way more Luka than 26%. He just makes all the sense in the world. Game 7 will play he could play every single minute today. Like if he played 48 minutes, Kevin Durant style, it would not surprise me.
I said the same thing the other day for game 6, but they, I don't know. I think he probably catches a breather he'll play the whole first. We've seen though, kid, give him consistently. And obviously it's game 7. I 100% see where you're coming from. I think he takes a couple minutes to start the second quarter and then probably plays like almost every minute in the second half. They got to win this game. So do the Suns though.
It's just so weird to me that, like, I know he had the hamstring issue, and so you're kind of protecting him to a certain extent if you're Dallas. You know, he only played 3 games in that Utah series, but he played 34, 33, and 42 minutes in those. He played 44 minutes in game 1 at Phoenix. Like for me, I think it's been a result of some early foul issues, and it hasn't shown up necessarily in the box score because he's only had 4, 3, 4, 5 personal fouls the last 4, but I'm very, very surprised he hasn't gotten upwards to 40 minutes. And I think a lot of it has maybe been knowing that they just ran Phoenix out of the gym last game. That was
ran out of the gym. It was before that.
Yeah. So I'm probably going to push back. I think he plays 42 plus barring foul trouble. Like there's no way that he played in a Utah elimination game. There's no way that he gets up to 42, 44 minutes in those 2 games back-to-back, the Utah to Phoenix game 1, and then somehow only plays 36 in this spot.
For sure.
I think he's going more so than Giannis, simply because Giannis, you know how many charges he can accumulate, and he's going to be getting just hacked everywhere. They usually bring him out in the first quarter. That's just something they've routinely done over the last 2 years. They bring him out for that little 3-minute stint, and then he closes out the first quarter. I think Luka plays more minutes than Giannis.
So do I. Look, some of these games have been just uncompetitive in the second half. And if you know that's the case and you can get your guy that you need in game 7, a few minutes of rest. Last game, not competitive in the second half. They lost by 30 the game prior to that. They lost by 20 in game 2. So yeah, he definitely saw his minutes curtailed in a lot of those. Definitely getting over 40 minutes tonight, barring a monster, even if it is a blowout. Like, it's your last chance. You can't pull these guys. So yeah, I love Luka a lot. With the rest of Dallas, I was on the unders for Dinwiddie last game, and nice. I'll die on that hill. I don't care. Yeah,
it was the right thing to do.
Yeah, I've been hitting. We were 3 for 3 on Dinwiddie unders up until that point. Check the betting video out over at OddsShopper. It's a lot of fun. Best NBA bets each day. Actually, on the weekends, Aton covers it, but I do Monday through Friday. Dude, he played 20 minutes and he shot 5 for 7 from 3. What am I gonna do? But he still only played 20 minutes. So when you look at this rotation, and let's just go ahead and do that, and we'll try and block out the end of this blowout. You know, you're getting big minutes from Brunson. Bullock still played 40 in a game that they won by 27. You know, Finney Smith in foul trouble?
Let's see.
I think he was.
Yeah, he was. So first rotation, he had 1 foul. Then he picked up a second there the course of in the beginning of the second quarter, picked up a third with 1 second left in the half.
Yeah, and then a fourth to start a few minutes into the third quarter, and then a fifth to start the fourth quarter. So I don't look at those minutes as anything outside of him being in insane foul trouble. The biggest question for me, and you can talk to me about Brunson and Bullock and Finney-Smith if there's anything that really stands out to you, but it does feel like the big question on a lot of these is what do we do with Maxey and Bertans and the bench?
Yeah. So here's the way I look at what happened with Dinwiddie. He basically got the Davis Bertans minutes bump because he was the one knocking down shots. And sometimes you see Spencer Dinwiddie be pretty assertive. We saw him be pretty assertive in that game. He was hitting step back threes. He was doing a bunch of things that you don't generally see him go out and do. And, you know, he played 16, 19 minutes the 2 games previous. But what happened in those games is Davis Bertans was the guy knocking down shots. So he played 13 to 19 minutes. They're basically just bringing in somebody into that offense off the bench, and it's going to be pretty unpredictable. So you got to just kind of look at it in terms of what the ownership's going to be. Dinwiddie is getting 13.8%, and Davis Bertans is down to 3% on DK. I'm more willing to rock with a 3,300 Davis Bertans than Spencer Dinwiddie at 4,500 at a position that has a lot of mid-range plays that I'm much more interested in, point guard, shooting guard, that is. So I think, as weird as it is to say, I like Davis Bertans simply because I know that if he sees the floor and knocks down shots, he might get his minutes extended. That can cut a little bit into Dinwiddie. But, you know, as far as the rest of the bench goes, I mean, if you're looking at a guy like Maxey Kleber there, I've been beating the drum for him just because Powell, you could just see that he was going to be a guy that was getting very, very limited here in this series. He finally put together a good starting rotation and played 17 minutes out of the middle of nowhere, had some utility at his number there, but I think Kleber's just another guy, as long as, you know, it's going to be a competitive game that is going to get to around 30 minutes. So I don't look at anything that happened with his minutes the last 2 as clearly indicative of what he would have. He'll play low 30s minutes in the event that this is a competitive basketball game. And even if it isn't, so 4,900 for him looks gross, feels gross. It is gross, but you're going to play some.
Yeah. And 2 of the 3 wins that Dallas has, Kleber's played 33 and 34 minutes.
Yep.
So, yeah. And he closed those games out, would have closed last game out if it was competitive, which would have got him to what? Would have got him to probably around close to 30, 28, 29 minutes again. Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
But this is beautiful too, because people have been really reacting to the box scores more now than what I could possibly remember during the regular season. And you obviously only have 2 games for each one of these slates. So the ownership gap is drastically different. You know, you have a Derek White who was almost like 50% last slate, where, you know, if you had 8 games on the slate, they would be the difference of like, oh, he'll be a 25% piece of chalk and a 15% piece of chalk. Like the ownership gaps are just so much wider. So when you see somebody like Bullock or Kleber that have really underperformed in the box score the last couple, but we know the reasons. I guess Bullock played awesome last game, but the 2 previous were kind of brutal. I mean, when you see something like Kleber where he's mid-20s minutes, people don't have any good vibes, so to speak, for a guy like that. Those are the kind of guys you want to be double the field on. So yeah, 19% for Kleber, I'll definitely be over that.
Anybody else you want to hit on? We know what the starting lineup looks like and how the rotation is going to work outside of, you know, give or take a couple minutes for Powell, maybe getting a few more. But like, as far as Brunson, Bullock, and Finney-Smith go, barring foul trouble or anything crazy, we have a good idea of how this starting rotation looks.
Yeah, it's interesting because I've been so against Dwight Powell as a piece of chalk for, feels like ever since the last game of the Utah series when Luka pointed to the bench. Jason Kidd, he was basically like, get Powell out of here, and he didn't see the floor again. It was basically Kleber, the guy that you wanted to be invested in. And now it feels like, all right, if Dwight Powell plays well in that first rotation, there's an opportunity for him to get a couple more minutes. He got up to 17. You have Ayton on the other side. Having a bigger body isn't the worst thing as long as he's being competent on the offensive end and at least converting some of those alley-oop shots from Luka, just setups from Luka. So Dwight Powell at 3,200 on other slates, I would be vehemently against even because we've had some value, but I think 3,200 for him, around 9% seems to be appropriate, but I think there's some leverage to be had there. I probably get to less if Robert Williams does play, just because I feel pretty confident in saying that him at 4,800 is my favorite center play to roster. But Bismack Biyombo is going to garner some ownership. And knowing that for $200 more, I can get one guy that's 1/3 of that ownership we're getting for Biyombo in Powell, and Powell could play about the same minutes, 17 or so, if he's playing well. I think this is the time to be rolling the dice on a play like that.
I like it. I'd also like, I love the fact that we have 700 concurrent people watching. This isn't even a live before lock show. So thank you.
See what happens when I get on a show over Josh? I tell you.
That's what it is, man.
What it is.
Let him know.
Nobody wants that. Nobody wants that bum.
You have moved the needle.
Have.
And we are 15 likes away from 200. So we are doing big things this morning. Appreciate you. Been a fun show. Been fun having you on, Eric. So we'll have to run this back sometime. We will.
Yeah, Powell is trash. I agree. Powell is absolutely trash, but he's 3,200. I don't know what we're supposed to do. If a guy sees the floor at 3,200, they're viable on this slate.
Yeah, look, you already advocated for George Hill, and now people have a problem with Dwight Powell. Come on now, right?
I'm just realizing this is now not, those are not two hills to die on. I'll die on one hill because his name's George Hill, but yeah.
I know, look, I get what you're saying. If you actually add some context to it, you're saying, hey, with a guy that's minimum salary, is it possible that you get 10 or 12 out of him today and that's actually enough? Yeah. It's also possible that you get one. You know, it's like you could get one fantasy point from him, and it also ends poorly. So
look at it this way. My favorite tournament play, if anybody checked into the NBA Live Before Lock on Friday, my favorite tournament play was Kevon Looney. I had 84% Kevon Looney. He was 6% owned. He was super, super cheap. He was going to get minutes, and then he ends up starting, and nobody pivoted there anyway because I don't know, but you have to always look at it in the context of what kind of value do we have on these slates, and then how, like, it is so important that you get to Luka and Giannis playing 40 plus minutes. Like, it is the priority to get up to those two guys specifically on the slate. If one of them fails, so be it, but I'm going to be well north of what their ownership is, just because you get all those raw points. You know where the usage is. You know who the guaranteed shot attempts are. Why not take shots on the guys like Dwight Powell, who are sub 10%, cheap, starting, have a path to play well? And it's not the unknown of a Davis Bertans coming off the bench and having to have, you know, some kind, like, Dwight Powell will get an opportunity to play well regardless.
All right. So 2 things here. We got to get through Phoenix quick because we got NASCAR Live Before Lock coming on. That's right. We do everything here on the YouTube channel. Subscribe if you like this type of stuff. That's at 11 Eastern. Jason Floyd, Chris Pennell. Then you have MLB Live Before Lock for 12:15 to 1:35. That's with our boy Eitan Shander and Terry McBride. Then Eric will be back with you 2:30 p.m. I sound like I'm doing like a news. And then Eric will be back with you. Yeah, 2:30 p.m. It's the NBA Live Before Lock show, plus a 30-minute post-show sponsored by OddsShopper. That's EMAC and your friend Eric Lindquist. That'll all be coming up. So let's rip through. Let's get through Phoenix. I'll hit on this. D. Spearman came less. Yeah, I saw that. I saw that on Twitter. Still a nice win. Came less than 1 point from taking down a tournament in UFC last night. I will take down NBA GPP or Showdown today. Been close. Appreciate you guys. Thanks for watching, man. All right. McGee didn't play last game, so maybe there's some value here, but it's going to be, you're going to be hard pressed to find much you feel great about. But Biyombo, 29% ownership. Since we're up against it, succinctly, but quickly, talk us through Phoenix. And you'll be back today for Live Before Lock anyway, so I don't feel bad.
Yeah. All right. I'm up to the task. We can do this. Devin Booker is my priority from Phoenix. He's 8,600. I think we've just seen schematically, he's the guy who can actually get things done against Dallas. They have really put the clamps down on Chris Paul, and Chris Paul seems really affected by everything this series from I don't know how to really point to this in the data, but he just seems like a guy that is affected by everything going on. Referees, sideline guys for Dallas, the kid that went after his mom and had that scruff. It's just seems to me like Chris Paul is really relying on the cast around him. And maybe this is the game where we see him go 14 for 14 again. His price has come down drastically, and he's going to be very, very popular, but I'm still going to ride with what I see from Devin Booker. There's nothing that's going to get me away from him at 9,300 over on FanDuel and on DraftKings at 8,600. As far as the rest of the team goes, DeAndre Ayton got a little bit of a price bump going up to him. He's 7,100 here. I think this is the time where there's not going to be Robert Williams. I will be over the field on DeAndre Ayton just because I feel so much more confident going to him in the mid-range than I do going down to a chalky Bismack Biyombo. I don't really see why he's getting considerably more ownership than a guy like Dwight Powell. I project them for the exact same amount of minutes. Biyombo's the inferior fantasy point per minute guy to Powell, not by much, but it's still a thing where I want to be getting to the under-owned pieces of value at the very, very bottom. This is by far the chalkiest piece that we have in Biyombo, and it could always flip. I'd say there's a non-zero chance JaVale McGee plays in some capacity, and that's enough to mute him. I don't want to play McGee, but Biyombo at 30% is just a little bit outrageous to me. As far as the ancillary pieces go, Mikal Bridges, Jay Crowder, they're going to play tons of minutes. Jay Crowder has been playing some of the backup. They've had some small ball lineups where he's been involved there. Doesn't really have the 35, 36 minute upside in these previous two games, but we've talked about the blowout concerns there. He will get back to that 36 minute type allotment if this game is competitive and if it stays close. I mean, that was a redundant statement, but Jay Crowder, Mikal Bridges, both going to play tons of minutes. I think very viable. Cameron Johnson, not my favorite piece, considering he's getting 24% ownership there. The minutes have been down. He really relies on knocking down shots. We saw 4 for 10, 5 for 8 in games 4 and 5 there for him. And then you get see him fall off the map like every other Suns player. Mid-20s minutes for Cameron Johnson. I'm probably going to go elsewhere. And Landry Shamet, he can fall into a couple lineups for you, but not enthusiastic.
Who's your favorite option for Phoenix today? And who's your top? All right, favorite option from Phoenix. Favorite overall player on the slate, not named Luka or Giannis, right? And then your favorite punt. We've talked about Biyombo. Now we've talked about George Hill. We've talked about Dwight Powell. Obviously, we're using the term favorite very loosely when we get down there. But some people only play 1 or 2 or 3 lineups, and they can't just spray with those guys.
All right. So favorite plays, obviously, Luka and Giannis. So aside from them, favorite guy to get up for from the Phoenix side, Devin Booker, I think is still drastically underpriced at 8,600. I'm going to side with him more than I'm going to side with Chris Paul, just because it seems like he's the guy who's getting his shots and has all the opportunity. I think my favorite guy in terms of, we didn't really talk a whole lot about him as well, not nearly as much. Jaylen Brown is my favorite spend up from that first game. If you're trying to get up to him alongside Giannis, alongside Luka, alongside those guys. So Devin Booker would probably fall into like my third favorite play on the slate. Jaylen Brown 3B. They're just going to be guys that I get to tons of. And as far as the value goes, sub 5K Maxi Kleber, I think people are really going to be sleeping on him in this spot. Maybe Reggie Bullock, 5,100 gets steamed up, but Kleber, I don't look at those minutes the last 2 games as clearly indicative of what he'll play in this game. Low 30s minutes is what I expect, and I just think he's going really, really slept on. So sub 5K, he's my favorite play.
Follow Eric at Eric Lindquist, me at Lafayette_D. Shout out to Mike for producing this show. And like I said, don't go anywhere. NASCAR Live Before Lock coming up next, followed by MLB Live Before Lock, NBA Live Before Lock. We got it all for you right here on the Awesemo YouTube channel. Hey, have a great rest of the weekend. We'll catch you back here tomorrow. Hold on, Jeff, you're killing me. I love you, Jeff, but you're killing me, bro. All right. Is it too contrarian not to have any Luka, Giannis, or Tatum in my single entry high dollar line? Yeah.
Yes.
I don't see why you would want to have none of those guys.
You need one of them.
You need one.
And I will say it is impossible for me to imagine a slate where Luka or Giannis doesn't end up optimal today. If they don't,
it's a game 7. They're going to play 40 plus minutes in a game. Yeah. It's just, yeah. All right. We got to go. We'll talk to you guys soon. Have a good one. Peace.